Summertime in Alaska is just something that you will never understand until you've lived here for an entire summer. It is the best place to be in the United States right now, hands down. I will not argue that with anybody because I know I'm correct. I've lived pretty much everywhere. So if you're coming up here to the state of Alaska this summer, I'm assuming you're probably watching my channel because you might be thinking about buying a house. Well, I give a lot of tips and tricks on my channel, and often it is about, where to live and, how to save on heating bills. Now, today we're gonna cut through all of that. I'm gonna do your real estate agent's job and give you the best tips and tricks to be successful in a real estate transaction this summer. These rules normally apply anytime. They will apply to other markets as well. So if you're watching this from a different state and you just happen to like me, which, thank you, I will tell you this should work in your areas too. Now, the details about the markets are gonna be different, but the strategies are the same. So every offer is gonna be different. Every area has a different form that the realtors use to fill out their offers, but somewhere in that form, you have the ability to change things in the offer. Now, everything that is good for a buyer in an offer, I want you to think of, because you're gonna be the buyer, as a minus, okay? It makes your offer worse. If it's good for you, it's not good for the seller, right? And like vice versa, if it's good for the seller, think of it as a plus, but it's not gonna benefit you. So that's you paying more, you covering a fee, you wrapping something in, gonna elevate your expenses, but is gonna benefit the seller. Now, the reason we wanna talk about this right now is because Fairbanks is chaotic every single summer. This is my 7th year doing real estate, and 7 years in a row now, every May through August is pure chaos. Houses are falling off the market in days. Properties are getting snagged up right and left. I got clients that wanna see homes and they're sold before we can even get inside the home to look at it. And why does this happen? Supply and demand. We have less supply, number of houses available, than people that demand to buy them, that want to buy them. And so what's happening is the people that are higher on that demand and want to really buy a house and own a house and not rent a property, have a landlord raise their rents and kick them out and do all the things that happen when you're a tenant because you have less property rights, mounting a TV on your wall, painting it your favorite color, having a dog, whatever, insert your excuse here, is forcing them to go harder on the limited supply that we have and gobble that up. Hopefully my little economics lesson here made sense. So because of supply and demand imbalance, because we're only building 4 or 5 new houses every year and we're selling thousands of homes every year, there's gonna be a discrepancy here. The issue that it's causing is the people with money are outbidding the people without money. And that's because the people with money understand they can make more money and how to leverage debt and do certain financial things that the people without money haven't had the opportunity to learn yet because they don't have the money to play with those kinds of games. Very rarely, 1 out of 5, multiple offer situations come down to somebody having cash and buying the house outright. So stop that falsehood. I'm the listing agent that's reviewing all these multiple offers. Stop the falsehood of saying that all these people with cash are buying all the properties. Well, when somebody with cash is in one of these situations, yes, they're gonna win the bidding war because there's no strings attached to cash. But for you cash buyers out there, your money is not more valuable than the equal part in a loan. And what I mean by that is if I get a $600,000 offer that's cash, and I get a $600,000 offer that is a loan, the $600,000 cash offer wins because it's just easier and quicker and there's less strings attached. But if I get a full price $600,000 loan offer and a $570,000 cash offer, your cash is not worth this much. It is worth this much. Now, hopefully the visuals are helping. What I'm trying to get here is stop discounting your offers and losing with cash offers when you think it's worth more. The only benefit to cash is there's less steps in the process and we can close quicker. Most of my sellers will go through the headaches in the 1 month period to close with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more in their pockets. And I hope you will too, because that is the annual income of most Americans. So if you can make $50,000 by going through a 1 month process, I think you should take the extra 50 grand. I know I would. All right, now let's get into the nitty gritty of loans because cash stuff is easy. Loan stuff is where it gets complicated. There's certain things you can and can't do, but for the most part, as long as you're willing to stand behind what you sign on that legally binding document, you should be able to do pretty much anything. So the first thing that is most common, specifically here in Fairbanks, is that the buyer pays for the home inspection and the seller pays for the septic inspection. Well, if you're a very eager buyer that wants to get a leg up, pulling that $600 septic inspection onto your side is one of the easiest things you can do. After all, you want to make sure it works, and your lender is the one that's going to require that it works. So why don't you pay for your fee right off the bat? Now, it makes you sound like I'm a seller, trying to help the seller here. I am in this specific video because everything that you do is not to convince the seller to take your offer. This video specifically is about multiple offer situations. And that is a situation when there are more buyers fighting over the property than there are sellers because there's only one of them. Why does this happen? Again, it goes back to that supply and demand thing from 2 minutes ago. So in multiple offer situations, you have to not convince the seller to accept your offer. You technically have to beat all the other buyers. There's only ever been one house in my career where my seller took a lower offer because of some emotional stuff that was tied to the offer. They saw their children in one of the buyers and forewent some money in order to get a better karmic deal. And I think in the end, it worked out for everybody. That family got a great deal, got a great house, and my clients felt really good about what they walked away with. It's not always about money, but it's very often about money. It's business. It's real estate. It's the only true thing that over time has held value and gained value over time. Maybe gold and silver as well. Maybe art. That's about it. Everything else will depreciate and become less in value over your lifetime. So how can we get you in here? Well, here's another thing. Start thinking about escalation clauses. So everybody's worried about overpaying on a house. I think you should stop worrying about that because the appraisal is what's going to dictate that. And if you're anything like our market, no matter what loan type you have, if the appraisal comes in low, you can renegotiate the deal. But if you want to go ahead and make your offer better, but you don't want to feel like, okay, well, they're asking 500. I don't want to go to 515 right off the bat because what if I get it for 505? And you're just one of those nervous buyers that doesn't want to put their money where their mouth is. It's called an escalation clause. Basically, you're saying, I'm going to look at all the other offers without seeing them and blindly tell you that my offer will beat all of the other offers by $1,000. The risk is it could be a runaway train. What if everybody else has an escalation clause saying the same thing? That's where you put a cap on it. And that cap is where you should be willing to walk away from it and let somebody else have that house. So if it's a $500,000 house, I'm going to escalate up to $550,000 in $1,000 increments above any other offer. But if it goes to 551, I bow out, I quit, and I'm no longer interested. See how this is a great tactic to increase your price without having it be a runaway train? That way you can guarantee you're still getting the house, but if the other offer is $10,000 lower than you, you just waste $10,000. Now, sellers don't like this and realtors hate this as well because it's a lot of work for us. But as a buyer trying to coach you to success right now, it is probably the number one thing you should do in your offer. Number two is something called an appraisal gap. This one is a little bit hard to explain, but essentially it doesn't matter what you offer on a house. If you have an appraisal, the appraisal value comes in low, you normally get a negotiation window. And so in this renegotiation window, a lot of people just say drop the price. Well, if you're trying to accept an offer as a seller at the very beginning, when you have all these buyers vying over you, the thing that you're worried about is a runaway train on your side where the value gets too high. You accept this $600,000 offer on your $500,000 house. And then in the end, you're not going to make any of this 100 grand because the appraisal is going to come right back here at 500K and they're just going to ask you to drop the price. So the buyers that put in appraisal gaps will always win because you're guaranteeing at least some of that difference in cash. And what I mean by that is, all right, house is 500, we escalated up to 600. My client's going to give you a $20,000 appraisal gap guarantee, meaning that no matter where the appraisal comes in at, my seller will make $20,000 above the appraisal value, usually below the purchase price. So even if it's a $500,000 house and we went up to $600,000 and the appraisal came in at $500, my client is still guaranteed to make $520,000, which is a bigger guarantee than any of the other offers made. This is called a king card. It's not quite the ace. I'm going to get to the ace, but it's a king card. It is a great game of poker strategy when you're looking at real estate and poker as the same metaphor, okay? Lastly is the one I almost never recommend, especially here in Alaska, but we still do plenty of these deals, and these are the people that win, as is. Now, there's an exception to as is. If you're gonna do as is with an inspection and try to retain your due diligence period, in the middle of summer, I'm gonna look into my crystal ball and start expecting buyers and sellers to see terms like what I'm about to mention. This is not yet common, but very soon it will be. Sure, but I'm not gonna mark the property pending until your due diligence period is up. Because there's a trend here in Fairbanks, Alaska, where buyers ignorantly rush to get a contract and get a property under contract and pending, taking off the market, and then 21 days later, when the buyer finally gets around to doing their inspection, because everybody in town tries to use the same 2 inspectors, the deal falls apart and you go back on the property, and it's a death sentence for the seller. So the trend that I'm gonna start seeing here in the near future, I already talked to a bunch of agents who are thinking about doing this, is during the due diligence period, the property stays active. And I won't be able to accept other offers, but I can keep them as backup offers. And the second that your buyer wants to negotiate too aggressively on repairs or possibly kill the deal, we got somebody else right behind you ready to go. And that is becoming more and more popular and will happen in the future. I almost guarantee it. Other than that, as is without an inspection is gonna be like a royal flush. Because what you're telling the seller is, I'm not even gonna check the condition of the property in order to possibly kill this deal. And that is almost as good as a guarantee, because whatever you saw and were provided and know is fact is going to be what they're gonna move forward with. And therefore it kind of shores up the risk that the seller assumes when accepting your offer. Now, I can go into a lot of advanced strategies on creative financing and other things like this, but I always wanted to give you kind of the original rundown of the poker game when it comes to making your offer. Try to guarantee things, try to beat the other buyers. Think about an escalation clause. Start pulling little ankle biter fees over onto your side. It's not always about dollar value, it's also about presentation. So if you're not asking for buyer closing cost assistance from the seller, meaning I'm asking the seller to pay for my insurance, my property taxes, my appraisal, which my lender determined that I need in order to get this loan, my loan origination fees, my lender doc prep fees, my closing report fee. Like, see what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to win a deal in a competitive market when buyers are asking sellers to still pay for their stuff, when there's literally other buyers out there that are asking to pay for the seller's stuff. Think about buying a house as a date. And you're a beautiful person and the other person is inviting you out to dinner. Do you make a better impression if you start helping them and doing things for them and paying for their stuff? Or do you think you're gonna have a better chance of landing that date and maybe date number 2 if you give, take? This is common sense, guys. This isn't rocket science, but I'm here to teach you the next level of this stuff, so stay tuned. Here in a few weeks, we'll do part 2 of this, where we're not just gonna talk about escalation, pulling over seller fees, appraisal gaps, and as-is clauses. We're gonna deep dive into some more complicated stuff. So stay tuned and hopefully you like this video. If you're in Fairbanks and you're competing in this market, tell me your horror story below. How many houses has your realtor shown? How many have you loved? How many have sold before you even got to look at them? I want to know, because I only get exposed to my clients' experiences, and I know a lot of you guys working with the other real estate agents here in town are watching my videos and commenting and sharing some knowledge behind the scenes with me. So again, if you want to share your story down below, leave it in the comments. Let me know what the real estate market's doing for you this summer. Take care, guys.